Welcome to the May 17th, 2023 Plan Commission meeting. First order of business, call to order. And we're going to roll call, please.
Bhatia.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Drivers excused. Washburn.
Here.
Rissler.
Here.
Bosanowski.
Here.
Van Beckham.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. And before we get started, I'd like to welcome Nancy Washburn to the Plan Commission. I think her experience and background in real estate is going to be very helpful to us as we go through all the discussions that we do. So
Well,
welcome.
thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very honored to be here. So thank you for the warm welcome.
Okay. Let's do the meeting minutes from April 19th, 2023.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the April 19, 2023 minutes meeting. Second.
Okay, it's moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
For the record, I'm going to recuse myself as I was not present at that meeting or part of the committee at that time.
We have no old business, new business, 1101 South Green Bay Road, Site Plan Review, SP 23-3. And Sam.
Russell Raposa of Raposa Design Architecture LLC applied to add about 6,500 square feet to the existing building and a new building to the rear on the same site. Also update the facade of the existing structure. Orthodontic Experts currently occupies the front building and would lease the additional building space to other commercial tenants. This application complies with the comp plan. Neither our Parks and Open Space Plan or our Master Bicycle Plan recommend any improvements for the subject property. From a zoning standpoint, this application meets all of the requirements of the zoning code. From a fiscal impact, one of the things that you can see in your packet is an updated fiscal impact spreadsheet. We've made some improvements to it, so you'll see us testing this out and rolling out in limited and an increasing number of applications moving forward. It still needs a little bit of testing, but I wanted to, this is a pretty simple project, so I wanted to get it in front of you so you could see what that fiscal impact spreadsheet looks like. Basically, what we're doing is looking at the value that the new development will have, and comparing that to ongoing costs for providing services, both the adjacent public infrastructure and the village services like police and fire, using some impact fee estimates in terms of how much this development will quote unquote cost the village over a 40-year lifespan. So you can see some of that information there. Going on to the final section of that fiscal impact statement, you can see productivity, where we are looking at revenue to cost ratios, private to public ratios, and estimated years to repay public liabilities. In this case, it is a net positive development, as one would or guess when you are adding value to an existing property. It pretty cleanly comes out positively. One of the things that we did do in this is assume a total estimated road replacement cost, but because this is along 31, that's just more to make sure that this development is kind of pulling its fair share of weight when adjacent to an arterial street. But ultimately, it still passes that test. So this looks worse than it even is because we obviously don't pay to pave or reconstruct 31. So the fiscal impact comes out ahead for its share of public costs. With that, we had about 10-ish conditions that the applicant was able to meet and revise the Plan Commission, so you have a clean approval in front of you. We have no additional conditions for approval, and we recommend approval of the site plan application.
Okay. Commissioners, anybody? Tom?
Sam, could you just briefly explain what model you have at your disposal to do this fiscal analysis? Because this is a pretty clean one, but I can imagine some will be pretty complicated.
So it uses basically a model that we borrowed from a community in Texas that I learned about at the National Planning Conference. They helpfully posted that model to their website, and they created that in coordination with some consulting firms and the Strong Towns approach, which is a group of people who advocate for fiscal responsibility in local government in its relation to land use. So trying to mirror good land use decisions with good long-term fiscal responsibility in communities. So we use that base model. Obviously, Texas is a little bit different than Wisconsin. We rely more heavily on the property tax and less heavily on sales tax, so we made some modifications there. And then I also tried to make some estimates on ongoing public service costs, and those relate to the impact fees that the village board has adopted already. So some of it needs some fine tuning, but that is because this one is a little bit more simple. All of them will generally look like this. Where they get more complicated is if they have multiple road frontages or it's a much larger development. Sometimes we'll break out individual sections or things to show you all. But for the time being, this is kind of it in its more standard form.
So you've done this on your own initiative and
Yes,
developed
we
this?
have been doing that fiscal impact analysis, and we had an interior model that we were using before. I wanted to show it to you in here instead of summarizing it because it was a new thing, but we've always had kind of an Excel spreadsheet that we've been working on, and this is just really an update to those. Before we just used local road and infrastructure to kind of make that estimation if it is fiscally prudent to approve the project or not. Now we're adding in some of those service costs, so that's where we'll need to kind of fine tune the model as time goes on, because that can vary pretty widely based on development. But for the time being, it seems to be functioning pretty well so far.
Well, I just want to commend you for doing that. I think it's certainly worthy to do that. I mean, a fiscal impact analysis should take place with a lot of government programs and a lot of different government levels, but I'm glad you're doing it. And certainly as a taxpayer, it's nice to see projects pulling their weight, as you say.
Yeah, exactly. That's the entire purpose. And kudos to the village board for allowing budgeting to send us to the National Planning Conference, where I sat through a session and the community said, you're free to use this model. And I was able to talk to them afterwards about it. And that's kind of the feedback loop we get. So thanks for that. And here's the work that's going out.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question. Or a comment. I think this is very interesting because we have two in our packet today that are similar to this. And it's the idea of the commercial condo concept and making these long, narrow properties along Green Bay Road and other areas of the community work. So again, I think it's a reflection of the changes we've made in our zoning code, that people are using it, whether, they came to you and said, what can I do, or whatever. I'm thrilled to see the expansion. This will have sidewalks along Green Bay Road.
They are not installing them because the DOT, subject to some weird state court rulings recently, is theoretically going to put sidewalks in when they reconstruct 31. So they are putting in a sidewalk to connect to those future sidewalks, but because DOT will be doing that construction within a couple of years, they are not liable to put them in now.
Okay.
Because we didn't want to have them installed and have them torn up like a year later.
Right, that's a waste of money. And with these bike hutches or bike boxes, so how many what's the requirement for that?
Just one in this case, because it's a pretty small office building. But generally, for most of our multifamily and our office buildings, as well as some other areas, we do have minimum but long-term bike parking standards, with the idea that, the Plan Commission, when it adopted the zoning code, wanted to encourage bike parking. A lot of bike parking is short-term, kind of the standard bike rack in front of a building where a customer might be able to pull up and lock their bike to it. But we did want to have some consideration in, commercial and more multifamily projects for places for people to store long-term bikes, whether they're residents in a multifamily project, or in this case, a potential employee or someone who might be, visiting the office for a long period of time. So they'll have a secure place to lock that bike and store it out of the rain, and secure it. So it's a little bit nicer for someone who's going to be there all day.
So is it the whole row of boxes?
No,
or
it's just
literally
one.
just one of
Just-
the boxes?
yeah.
Okay, all right. And just to comment to our analysis, one of the things that, we have seen in some of these financial analysis, which is a little scary sometimes, especially in single family, it doesn't always work out to be net positive. And that's not, the caution to the wind is that's not a reason not to approve the project. It just goes to show you that commercial with the higher values and so forth tends to pay for itself. Much easier and gives us a little room then to feed into the subdivisions that may not quite make 100%.
Yeah, it's certainly a tool. It's not the be-all, end-all. I think another good example is, a non-profit business, like a hospital or something that'd be exempt from sales tax, or a school or something like that. It's not that those uses aren't providing value, but they do come at somewhat of a cost to the village. So it's just an arrow in your quiver to make those land use decisions. It's not the be-all, end-all. We either approve or deny something due to that fiscal analysis.
Thank you.
Rob?
Sam, I also have a question about, in the package, there's a bike storage. So in the map that you have here, how does that fit? Where does that fit? Because
It's in between the two buildings. One of those lockers that Trustee Washburn
Yeah.
pointed out will be located in between the two buildings.
okay, because I was trying to understand, they want to add 6,500 square feet, which they want to rent to the other tenants. So the bike is for the employees kind of storage?
Whoever wants to use it, but I think the intent of the zoning code was for someone who'd be there for more than an hour or two. So likely, in this case, for an office, an employee of the area.
Yeah, when I see that in the package, I was totally confused, saying,
Yep.
what has this got to do with the, with that, so,
Part
thank
of the
you.
code.
Yeah, thank you, other than that, no question, thank you.
Yeah, because we don't see it shown anywhere on the drawing, and again, this was a site plan review, so we need to know where that's going. Additionally, what about any short-term bike parking? I don't see anything listed there for that, and I would assume we would require that as well.
We do, and they did call it out on one of the sheets.
Well, you can have you come up later.
Yeah, if you look on the site plan sheet, that is, it's sheet ASP in the corner. It's the one with kind of the green space shaded in green. If you look closely between the front and the back building, there's the proposed addition and then the new proposed building.
Right.
Both short-term bike parking and long-term bike locker are called out between the two buildings there.
I can't-
It's a little
I
tough
can't-
to
I
see.
can't read it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is there, though.
Okay.
See if you'd gotten your computer up.
I
you
would
would have
need,
been
I need a
able to-
magnifying glass, or yeah,
been able to
yeah, I'd blow it
expand.
up maybe. Okay. Any other questions?
Good location, nice expansion.
Could we have the developer come up, please, if we could? And you state your name and address for the record, please.
Russell Raposa, Raposa Design, 12690 West Greenbrier Lane, New Berlin. I'm the architect for the project.
Okay.
So, quick summary, Orthopedic Experts is a company out of Illinois that has moved into the state of Wisconsin. This is their third location. Most of their locations have been in existing strip malls. When they purchased this, they were looking to obviously expand to try and attract some, let's say, like businesses, whether it's pediatric dentistry or something of the like, but obviously the zoning opens it up to much more. So the expansion on the existing building, they will probably take over as part of their space. They just got finished with a interior build out of the existing building. They're up and operating now, I believe. And the second portion, the second part of the building, because of the easement that goes through the property, then would be for other tenants to move into. So they're excited to be in Mount Pleasant and really looking forward to just kicking this project off. They are looking, if you guys are looking for a time frame, they are looking to submit to plan review probably in the next week or two. So groundbreaking would probably start in about 2 or 3 months if approved.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission at all? Okay, then I look for a motion.
With that handout, please.
Am I too new to make motions? I'm good at motions. Go, okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the site plan review for 1101 South Green Bay Road as presented with the conditions and comments by planning staff.
I think we have to specify the SP number.
I apologize, site plan review SP-23-3.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, I call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you and good luck. Okay, the next item on the agenda is 3528 Meachem Road, Condominium Plat, CP 23-1.
There we go. I think Dustin and I were playing, fighting on the thing there. This one's pretty simple. It's, the applicant applied for a condominium plat to create 2 units on the property covering the existing commercial buildings. The applicant wishes to sell the front building, separately from the back building. And to do that on one single parcel, they need to create a condominium plat. This meets all of our condominium platting regulations and our zoning regulations. Essentially, there is no new improvements planned for the property. This is only for ownership purposes. The center area will be under common ownership, so they'll share the parking between the 2 buildings as is. So with that, we move to recommend approval, and we have the attorney here on behalf of the applicant if you have any questions for them.
Okay. Commissioners, anybody have a question?
No, I don't have any question.
I think we've seen this one a number of times that's
Yeah.
come through.
Comp plan, zoning,
Yeah,
and now finally the condo
exactly,
plat.
yes.
It's been about 6 months in the works.
Oh, I see, okay.
I was
Hey, Tom, go ahead.
it's not a question, I was just going to make an observation to the drafting attorney, who I assume is this gentleman. Nice job, they're nice legal documents. I'm a retired attorney, so just wanted to comment that you did good work.
Mr. Chairman, I just had one question as I was reading through the declaration, and I will admit, I read it fairly quickly. So you're creating an association to maintain all the common elements, but at this point, there's only 2 owners, potentially. So I guess my question is, do you feel this document solves problems when you have 2 owners and there's only 2 votes and they don't agree? How do you come up with?
I'll let you take it.
Name and address, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nick Verhollen. Address is 7418 Washington Avenue, Racine, Wisconsin. Attorney representing the property owner. To address your question, the first unit, Unit 1 of the condo, will have 2 votes in the condo association. They'll retain a 75% interest in the common elements.
Okay.
So they'll have the controlling vote of, I guess, what happens to the common elements.
Okay, I did kind of see that in there. As I said, I read it fast, but I just wanted to clarify that, so we made sure they had an odd number. So thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, yes, I forgot about that. I'm looking at my notes. I also had the same question on that in the condominium association. So you have 2. One will have 2/3 of the vote and 1/3, right? So that means for mostly the 2/3 will always win unless they agree. So why would anyone want to be part of the 1/3? That
Yeah,
makes no sense to me.
That's not for us to figure out.
It's the owner retaining control of the property. The buildings are different sizes. So my client, the developer, wants to retain control of the condo association itself.
So
And
essentially,
it's to break any future tie, or to break any future ties.
understand, but essentially what the owner is saying to the potential buyers of the other 1/3 is that buyer beware, because I'm going to control all the votes. I mean, like, buyer beware, kind of, I mean, so, he or she is, the owner is not implying that your vote doesn't count, but the owner is giving them a heads up, saying, this is the way it's going to be. If you want to buy, beware, correct?
Yeah. That's the way I read it.
I think but I think, jumping in, it's fair to say that the predominant owner, majority owner, still is subject to abide by these rules and regulations and all of these easements, so the predominant owner just can't ignore them. He has to abide by them. Discretionary matters that go to vote, sure.
Yeah.
But as to most of the bread and butter costs and expenses, I think they're covered by the recorded documents and
Again,
would have to abide by them.
Yeah, and to answer your question, so of the common elements, Unit 1 has 75% interest, Unit 2 has a 25%. And the way that the condo documents are spelled out is that the owner of Unit 2 would be responsible for 25% of the common interests themselves, the cost of them. So I think that this mainly is an issue of marketability of the condo unit for my client's consideration. And that any potential buyer of Unit 2 will have to see the condo documents and they'll understand what they're buying.
And the bottom line is they only pay 25% or 33% of the cost to mow the lawn and the cost to maintain. So they're actually they're paying much less than the owner in building one. And that, at this point, I'm not sure I'm worried about it. I just wanted to clarify that they had three, that there was an odd number, so. you know.
Well,
But
this
yeah, it's just
situation has
buyer beware.
existed for some time with these two buildings on the property, and the front, which is essentially a converted residential unit, has gone through a number of iterations. It was the blood center for a while. I think the last time I gave blood, it was in that building, but it's been insurance and whatnot, and the back is a stick-built dentist office, and more value to that building than the one in front, so I don't see it being a really big deal.
no, my question was not in reference to the approval of the plat, but it was just that makes no sense to me as if somebody is a potential buyer, so except that you know what you're getting into it, and then you buy it if you still want to buy it. I was just questioning, the wisdom of that. Other than that, I don't have any concern.
Normally with something like this, I'd like to see a more detailed maintenance agreement for the common areas and the driveway and all that. I understand that the 25% owner, it chips in only 25%, but the way it's set up, the 75% owner can pretty much change anything he wants at any given time because of the control.
Well, you'd also have to look at the condo documents themselves. Of course, the Unit 2 would rule the day in any vote in the condo association, but there are limits on amendment to the condo documents. I believe they require unanimous consent. So you'd need both unit owners on board to change the rules of the game.
Also, for what it's worth, from the village's standpoint, we don't really care either way. The ordinances just say they do have to apportion the costs and have those in the condo documents. I mean, ultimately, I think the biggest feedback loop is going to be from the market. If no one finds that fair, no one's going to buy the unit, and then they'll have to change it to attract a future buyer. But from the village's perspective, and you all and the village board, as long as they apportion the cost between the two units, we don't really care how they do it. So that was in the condo documents, and that's what I reviewed from the staff level. So it met our local ordinances for what they need to include, and we're like, good to go.
Well, and I think sometimes typically with condo plats or bigger developments, these are so unique in their own way. Typically you're gonna have a little more of that information, Tosh, because you're gonna have stormwater management agreements that are attached, that are very specific for pond maintenance and so forth. So this is just kind of a little bit less complicated in terms of what has to be done, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other
I
questions?
don't have any further.
If not, I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve 3528 Meachem Road, Condominium Plat CP-23-1 as presented.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Second here. Okay, next on the agenda is 12719 Spring Street Certified Survey Maps, CSM 23-5. Sam?
Plan next.
Number 3, item number 3.
It's Brown Road on our agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
My mistake, sorry.
No, you're
Okay,
good. I just wanted to make sure
9725, yeah, 9725 Brown Road Comprehensive Plan Amendment, CPA 23-1. Thank you.
All right, this is a proposed comp plan amendment from Dewberry, which is a company who's working on behalf of Microsoft with permission from the village as us, the owner, to apply. What they're trying to do is amend the comprehensive plan to remove a proposed extension of 98th Street, which currently dead ends well into Sturtevant, and the current comp plan shows that extending through Sturtevant, past Braun Road, and to County Line Road through the property. Microsoft would like to remove that roadway extension south of Braun Road through the property that they're purchasing from the village, per our development agreement with them, because they don't have any public site circulation through it, and that roadway would limit their future site plan. So they'd like to remove it. When reviewing the comprehensive plan, most of the time we're amending the land use section of the comprehensive plan. This is one of those unique circumstances where we're amending the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. The applicant provided a pretty extensive narrative on their own behalf, so I'm not going to paraphrase the stuff that you had in your application, but ultimately the village staff generally encourage increased roadway connectivity because that connectivity reduces cumulative pressure on collector and arterial streets. However, we believe in this case, the economic development goals of the development agreement with Microsoft outweigh those transportation goals. Furthermore, the applicant's use is not a heavy traffic generator, and the improvements installed as part of the original Foxconn development provide adequate capacity for the applicant's plan at this time. So this is in a unique circumstance as well, where it's not like they're putting in a development and then shifting, future road upgrades onto the village at some nebulous point in the future. In this case, the village has already gone in coordination with the county and the DOT and upgraded all of the collector and arterial streets surrounding this site. So we're less concerned about those future liabilities because the roads were already upgraded to handle a pretty substantial amount of traffic. The village staff agree with the applicant's narrative relating to environmental effects. If anything, the removal of the roadway would reduce the potential environmental impact to Lamperrick Creek by eliminating a potential public crossing. The proposed amendment is compatible with the surrounding land uses. There's little need for north-south public connectivity through the data center site, and the lands in Sturtevant northwards may include residential development, which may utilize the existing roadway improvements to reach County Trunk Highway KR. The village staff do not believe the extension is necessary to serve the data center development. The proposed amendment relates to a development agreement signed by Microsoft, Racine County, and the village. The development agreement guarantees at least $1 billion in investment by Microsoft in the site. And the proposed amendment is in substantial agreement with the recommendations of the Regional Land Use Plan. The Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission's Vision 2050 plan does not identify the proposed roadway as a local arterial roadway planned for extension. With that, this is our first view. So we've done a couple of these comp plan amendments in the last year. This is our first meeting. So per the planned amendment procedures as outlined in Chapter 15, implementation element of the multi-jurisdictional comprehensive plan for Racine County 2035, the village staff recommends the Plan Commission move to direct staff to send a copy of the proposed plan amendment and its report to all adjacent local governments and all other parties listed in section 66.10014B of the statutes, and to non-metallic mine operators and other persons listed in section 66.10014E of the statutes, and 2, schedule a public hearing on the proposed amendment with the village board, with publishing a Class 1 notice at least 30 days before the public hearing, containing information required under section 66.10014D of the statutes. So really all you're doing today is voting to move this on to a public hearing.
Okay.
It's a lot for a very little amount, but it gives you a preliminary review, and now you have some context on it. If you choose to approve this today, it'll start that 30-day wait period with the Class 1 notice, and you'll likely see this back in July for final approval.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this reminds me of any kind of large neighborhood plan. Your interior roadways can change. We don't know with the next developer that comes along that we might have a connection that's drawn in that works well with their plans. So these have to be very fluid, and I certainly would support it.
Normally, when we're looking at the proposed layer of the comprehensive plan, we care more about the connections than we do the exact location. But because they're removing that entire stretch, they're not reconfiguring it, we thought it was best to do everything through the formal amendment process. So, sometimes like Fiduciary's site down on Braun Road, there was a proposed roadway through their site. We allowed them through the site planning process to kind of shift it to make sense with their site plan in the local context of Braun Road, but in this case, they were removing the whole thing. So,
Well, I assume this is going to be completely fenced, the whole development anyway.
it'll be fenced in specific security sections. It won't just be like around the entire square, because the creek does run through the middle. It'll probably be fenced in 2 sections, but you should see some of the preliminary master site planning stuff in the next month or 2 come to the Plan Commission, which will answer some of those questions.
Right, Tom?
Yeah, when I look at attachment B, I don't see anything shown for what is proposed or what's projected to be the access onto Braun or KR.
There is
We're giving
no-
up this road, which I don't have a problem with.
That attachment B shows the access will mostly likely for at least the first phase on the south side of the creek will likely pull its access off of 90th Street. So it would not have access to Braun or KR. The north side, when they come in for their site planning, north of the creek, that might access Braun Road, but for the time being, south of the creek, they're only accessing 90th Street.
So the access will be dealt with later.
Yes, they, as part of their site plans, they will have a full traffic impact analysis, which will look at the function of those intersections with the public streets. The village has agreed to upgrade 90th Street in coordination with this development, which was always a part of the TID 5 project plan. So we're coordinating that site design with them now, and in the next month or 2, you should have an exact location where that access will be. But for the first phase here, it'll be on 90th Street, will be the primary entrance.
And at this, as of today, there's no, how far away is this street in terms of where it actually exists these days? It stubs out in Sturtevant somewhere?
Stubs out probably a mile north of Braun Road in Sturtevant.
All right, thanks.
There would have to be multiple property developments in Sturtevant to bring it even south to Braun Road, and cross some environmental areas in Sturtevant to even get there. So who knows if 98th Street would ever make the connection southwards, and if it did, I think it's like a long-term planning exercise. It's not something that'll happen in the next 5 years.
And it still can connect. I mean, it's still, if they can get it down there.
Yeah, it'll still
Sturtevant,
be able to
still
connect
able
into
to-
Braun Road,
yeah,
so it shouldn't hamper Sturtevant's connections in any way.
Exactly.
Our understanding is that's probably going to be a mixture of commercial and residential development in Sturtevant, so they may or may not want interconnectivity between the two, depending on how that develops in the future, but that's their choice to make at this time. They're part of the comp plan.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Nope, make a motion.
me actually.
And then there's Claude.
The way it looks to me, I don't think we have much of a choice. The way this road goes, it's almost in the middle of the property, so it'll hamper any build-outs.
It is, and for additional context, before, like, the proposed road is older than us changing the comp plan to allow for business park use out here. So the old long-term plan was assuming this would be kind of very low-density agricultural residential development, which makes sense that there would be a wider variety of property owners and you'd need a collector street in there. Shifting it to business park development, typically those land uses are much larger parcels, more concentrated ownership structures. So, we could have dealt with it back then, we did not, so we got to deal with it now. But I think from a land use perspective and how that relates to the transportation, it makes a lot more sense in terms of the context these days.
You have something, Rob? Claude, what would you like to say today?
Good afternoon, everyone. Just also to clarify from Sam, understand when this was here a long time ago, when this was platted, KR was at grade. KR here is no longer at grade, folks. There's an overpass over that railroad tracks. This road would never be allowed
Oh,
today.
good point. You're right.
Not to mention, ATC cuts this property in half with their poles that go east and west, which would also never be allowed to have a road through there like this. So again, by vacating it at Braun,
It's
it
really
checks
clean,
all
it's
those
really
boxes.
just cleanup.
Yes.
At this point, it's really cleanup.
All it is.
Because of those compelling, very compelling reasons. I forgot about the overpass location.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Claude, we appreciate that. Okay. Any other questions from the commission? All right, not hearing anything, I'd like to hear a recommendation or a motion.
Mr.
President, I move that the planning commission direct staff to schedule a public hearing on the proposed amendment and all other measures required by local ordinance and state statutes regarding 9725 Braun Road Comprehensive Plan Amendment CPA-23-1 as presented.
We have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other further discussion?
Was my motion correct, Sam?
Yeah, that's good. You don't have to reread the entire
No,
thing.
no, no. Did I miss anything?
It's
Did I
already
miss
in the
anything?
record,
Kinda
so.
weak, but okay,
you're
well,
I wanted Tia to have to read the whole thing, so we screwed it up.
It'll be in the official resolutions and ordinance passed when it moves forward.
all right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Now we're going to go to 12719 Spring Street Certified Survey Map, CSM 23-5.
The applicant applied to dedicate public rights-of-way surrounding Lot 1, including a new north-south roadway named Rosewood Lane, a new east-west roadway named Trevi Lane, and continuation of Carrington Boulevard northwards. The application meets all our subdivision and zoning standards for an RM2 zoned lot, except for needing to show the utilities, which are existing at the stubbed end of Carrington. The applicant did provide the village staff an ALTA survey of where those utilities end. So if the Plan Commission is okay with it, you can strike the only condition that we had on it, because they did get us that exhibit just in a different document form, which is fine with us. As a fiscal note, the village board approved a development agreement with the property owner on April 10th, where the village will reimburse the developer for a municipal revenue obligation of about $7.5 million in tax incremental district number 7 to cover the expense of installing the public infrastructure. The developer estimated their total development cost in the development agreement as not less than $100,317,356. With that, we recommend approval. This is really just a roadway dedication to clean up the site plan so they can move forward. And as a final note, for all of you, we did receive quitclaim deeds from all the adjacent property owners to dedicate their half of the rights-of-way out there. Typically, we don't allow the platting of half streets, but in this case, we do have all the corresponding quitclaim deeds, so we will get the full rights-of-way for all these new public streets in there.
Wow.
So,
That's terrific.
One question I have, Sam, is in regards to Carrington Boulevard. This doesn't show any extension through to Spring Street.
nope. They're only liable to take it to their north property line. So there's one third-party owner that'll have to take it the rest of the way. But that property, those properties on either side of the future extension are owned by the same property owner. And they also lie within tax incremental district number 7. So we both have a unified property owner and a financial mechanism to bring Carrington Boulevard further northwards whenever they find a buyer for that property.
The reason I'm saying is because now we're going to be opening up an arterial street, I guess, if you will. Trevi Way, and what's the other one? I can't remember the name of it. But you're going to have them going into Carrington, which is going to be I want to call it a cut-through, if you will.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how it'll be.
Spring Street by the church, all the way down to Highway 20. And I don't know if that's a very good idea and why we wouldn't move forward with that. As far as
Because
just a
we
village.
would have to eminent domain and pay for the extension all the way to Spring Street.
Right.
And the village doesn't have the cash on hand in TID 7 to do that.
Okay.
The developer, in this case, is paying for all those extensions. So we are capturing what we could in corresponding with this development. The village would be liable, if we wanted to do that today, the village would be liable to take it further north to Spring Street. And that's just not fiscally prudent at this time. That extension will probably cost another couple $1 million.
Yeah,
I can't see how, at this point, not taking V or the frontage road those would be faster, because there's no traffic lights between Spring and Washington on either V or the frontage road, so, I mean, it's pretty much a straight shot. But I was just saying.
The
Good point.
construction for the site will take about 2 years as well, so those roadways aren't going to be open, next year. I can't make any promises for the future, but I know those properties are actively being marketed for sale. So our hope is that with both TID 7 and the properties actively for sale, we have had inquiries. No one's moved forward for an offer to purchase, but people are interested in the site, so it's our hope that by the time these roads are done, publicly accepted and open for public travel, something else will be in the works for the adjacent property to bring Carrington Boulevard further northwards. If ultimately it doesn't happen in the next 10 years or so, by then TID 7 should have the cash on hand to be able to just install it municipally. So that's always our backstop as well, as we do have we will start accruing cash as the developments move forward, and we will be able to pay for it in the future.
well, because that's recoverable anyway, if anybody does develop, correct?
Correct.
If the village did put it in.
It could be, yeah. We just don't want to impede the property. If we put it in and then specially assess it, it might discourage people from buying it. So typically we try to coordinate with those developers a little bit more. But ultimately, if that's as the final backstop, if that's what we end up doing, we have the financial mechanisms to do that as well. It'll just take us some time to kind of get cash into the TID for fund balance.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Okay. I guess then if I can get a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the certified survey map for 12719 Spring Street, certified survey map CSM-23-5.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Now to call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimous. Okay. And the next on the agenda is 9407 Braun Road Certified Survey Map CSM 23-6.
The applicant applied to, as a note, this is the packet I handed out to you today, the one that was provided to you in your packet between last week and this week. The applicant met most of the conditions that we had on it, so we reissued it and provided it to you there. So follow along the one that I handed out that's stapled. The applicant applied to consolidate all of the existing tax parcels for sale purposes. The application also dedicates rights-of-way for Braun Road, 90th Street, and First Street, which is KR. Once consolidated, Microsoft will buy the new single parcel for their data center development per a development agreement between Microsoft, the village, and the county. The application follows the land use element of the multi-jurisdictional comp plan. The Village of Mount Pleasant Master Bicycle Plan identifies a bicycle facility along the stretch of Braun Road on the north side of the property, which the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, in coordination with the village, installed during the local road improvement project in coordination with the interstate expansion and the Foxconn development agreement. So just highlighting it's nice when we've met some of our comp plan bicycle facility goals out there. And a park and open space plan for the Village of Mount Pleasant 2050 identifies the wooded area in the center of the site as open space lands to be preserved. This meets the majority of our certified survey map ordinances. The village board approved a development agreement with the property owner on March 30th, where the developer agreed to purchase the land for $50,085,000. The village will reimburse the developer for a municipal revenue obligation of 42% of the annual tax incremental property taxes paid on the improvements, not to exceed $5 million per year for the duration of tax incremental district number 5. The developer estimated their total development cost at not less than $1 billion. The conditions that we recommend approval for are still the one regarding how they're going to protect the open space identified. Actually got off the phone with Microsoft right before this meeting, and they are going to deed restrict the environmental corridor is the method of restriction that they're going to move forward with right now. So we'll leave that condition on the approval to make sure that it complies and they comply in the future, but they're aware of it. They've talked about it. They know that they have to protect that environmental corridor in the middle of the site that appears on the CSM. They're going to do that via deed restriction. That deed restriction per ordinance is only changeable by both permission from the property owner and the village board. So at whatever time in the future, if they wanted to do something to that environmental corridor, the only thing that they could use it for would be passive recreation unless they got separate permission from the village board at that time.
Yeah,
So.
I don't see that changing.
And the last few are in relation to showing public utilities and easements on the certified survey map. Because the site is actively under construction or will be shortly in coordination with the 90th Street reconstruction, we told Microsoft that, like the other CSM, we were okay receiving that information via an ALTA survey because we didn't want them to put a bunch of utilities on a map that are going to get torn up in less than 6 months and relocated
vacate
everywhere.
them.
So,
Yeah.
so we're just going to coordinate with them once the final ALTA surveys are finalized. They'll provide those to the village for our records, so we'll know where all of those utility easements lie and everything, and we'll have them on file. But we didn't feel like they needed to put them on a map for them to change right after recording anyways.
Mr. Chairman, do we see any reason to need to record any of those easements, Claude? Ultimately, I mean, the ALTA is not necessarily recorded,
It will
so,
be recorded.
pardon me?
The Ultra will be recorded.
Oh, it
once-
will be.
When it's
Okay.
finalized.
Okay.
As well, the easements will be recorded on closing, right?
Correct.
So they'll record the easements, they'll show up on the ALTA survey, and then we'll have that for records as well.
Okay, so they will become public record?
Yeah.
Okay, at some point in the
Yeah.
future, when we know where they are.
And who's going to be involved in that process on behalf of the village?
They'll send them to both Claude and I as staff to make sure they're part of the record. So Claude will have them as part of his TID 5 files, and then I'll coordinate with Public Works to make sure that Public Works has them as well. So there'll be probably multiple copies here held at Village Hall within different departments.
Sam, at one time, and this probably maybe is being vacated because of this, but there was talk that the Lamperic, at the time ditch, now creek, was going to be redone.
Yep.
And then probably a multi-use pathway through there. Is this going to be vacated at this point then, or is that something that would be viable yet to happen?
No, I wouldn't rule that off the table yet. Microsoft's actively looking into how they would like to restore that creek area. They've done that in coordination with some of their other data center sites. So as they're going through site plan design and review right now, and they'll have more answers for you within the next couple months when they're in front of Plan Commission. But I would say in general, they're not going to pipe the creek or anything like that. It'll likely be a nice restored area through the middle of the site. I just don't know exactly what that looks like yet.
But again, I guess the question comes down to, is that going to be publicly accessible?
Ideally, yes. From my understanding, the security fence would be inside that greenway area, so the public could access it, or animals and other things would have free access. They're not going to gate the river at 90th Street, so you wouldn't be able to get in there.
Yes, because like I said, it was something that was on the table in the past. I just didn't know if that has gone by the by.
No, I think they're still interested in it yet. They just haven't finalized the design, so I'm hesitant to say exactly what it'll look like,
Well-
but it'll be restored in some way, shape, or form.
That's promising. I really like the idea, so.
Yeah.
Tom, what would you?
Yeah, if you could just go back to where we were talking about the conceptual master plan for this site. I don't know if you can get that back up on your screen, but I just want to see, attachment B to this conceptual master plan showed how this is going to be built out. at least. So this area we're talking about is this preservation site, is this green space that's shown?
Yeah,
on
in
the
large part,
conceptual
yes.
plan? Okay, and that shows a security fence running to this south of that area. So that's sort of what we're talking about preserving.
Correct.
So that preserved space fits into the,
That's on the CSM, what'll show up under the deed restriction.
okay. And that fits right between, yeah, an electrical distribution easement doesn't affect it either. All right.
Cool.
Does DNR or sewer pack get involved in this sort of preservation?
Sewer pack, no. Their involvement is really on the front end. They're the ones who identify the environmental corridors and put them on the like regional plans. So we're pulling that information down from them for these recommendations. They also helped us with our parks and open space plan. So sewer pack's really kind of the highest level planning. Their work is already done. DNR, potentially, depending on how they decide to move forward with creek restoration and wetlands and all that kind of stuff. So likely a mixture of DNR and potentially the Army Corps of Engineers, depending on how those determinations go and what type of improvements they'd like to put in. But DNR at a minimum will be involved.
But Microsoft, I mean the developer, they're aware of all of this at this point in time.
Oh, yeah. They've had multiple meetings with the DNR, so they're on the same page, and they have to go through DNR permitting process for the site anyways, so it's all kind of part of the bigger mix of, you know, which wetlands are artificial from the farming on the site and which ones are going to get, you know, restored and all that kind of stuff. So
Where does this creek eventually flow to?
Pike River, all the way to the east. So it starts at about County Trunk Highway H, just by the large ATC substation that's on the east side of H. Kind of runs adjacent to that, meanders through, past the railroad tracks, through this site, and then through some other properties further east past the other railroad tracks, and all the way to the Pike River. It flows through Bikes Ramkey Park, or adjacent to it at one point, and then dumps out into the Pike River. So everything's kind of moving eastwards and is all within the Pike River watershed.
Okay, any other questions? If not,
Is this Mr. Bednar?
Does Claude have any,
looking for a motion.
wonder if Claude has any comments?
No, I mean, Sam kind of summarized everything. Again, things are moving at a pretty rapid pace here, so we need the CSM obviously approved this afternoon, hopefully from you folks. Monday night, it'll go to the village board for approval, and then we can proceed on some other issues to keep this thing moving along. But you will see a lot more in the next month or so. And again, what you saw here in the first exhibit, their site plan is a draft. It's conceptual. That is not the final one, folks. So please understand that it is a moving target right now today.
More to come.
But more to come, soon.
And that's good to hear, Claude. Soon is good to hear. We love that. We're happy to keep moving you along.
Oh, okay, we could say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you can bring that to attention.
And just for the record, Ron Bhatia just reminded me that on the top of that executive summary, it says village board meeting instead of plan commission meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Just so we know, that's just a typo.
Yeah.
With that, I'm still looking for a motion, so,
Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval of the 9407 Brown Road Certified Survey Map CSM-23-6 to the village board, subject to condition for approval.
Second.
got a motion and a second. Any further comments? If not, I call a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Let's move on.
Keep going, Claude. Hurry, hurry.
Hurry, hurry. And last on our agenda is 1433 Valley View Drive Site Plan Review SP 23-13.
Matt Ostergaard applied to build a 108 square foot shed on his property that is zoned RE. He seeks permission to use high quality materials on the shed, some of which do not match the materials on his primary structure. Per the RE guidelines, generally outbuildings, if they're within 200 feet of the roadway and visible by the public, have to match the primary structure's architectural stylings, with at least 60% of the face of those structures needing to be high-quality materials like masonry or stone or things like that. In this case, there is kind of the cord wood style shed that the applicant would like to put up, a high quality material, using, natural materials. It just doesn't match the existing home. So you all have the authority to kind of bless the shed and say, even though it doesn't match, it still looks good, and he can build a shed. We as staff don't have any issue with it, so.
Why are we doing this? Isn't going through like zoning board or something of appeals?
The code specifically grants you the authority. I think that's to make it less of a big deal. If something goes to the zoning board of appeals, it's more like zoning court where we're swearing in people and stuff. He's not actually applying for a variance. He's just kind of applying for a special permission from you all. Kind of like how we allow the signs. If you share tenant signs, the Plan Commission can allow them to go 50% larger if they're sharing across multiple different tenants in a commercial strip. This is the same kind of thing where it's like, it's not really that big of an issue, so the Plan Commission can kind of just give it its thumbs up.
Yeah, I just, because we don't do anything with with residential as far as what the house looks like. I mean, other than in RE, obviously there's some new things on the front, but we don't review a site plan for houses.
No, generally not. And it's, as I've gone through this process, the applicant has been gracious enough to go through it with us. And I'm sure he'll be happy if you all approve it that we can sign off on a shed permit this afternoon. But other than that.
I'm not even sure you can see it from the road.
One neighbor can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you.
Some of the controls are there because we do get applicants who are trying to really just put up like a Rubbermaid type of tough shed or something, and get around those rules. So providing some set of checks there does make sense, but it's part of our strategic plan to update the residential guidelines this year anyway. So this might be one of those sections that we look at to say, like, how much does this make sense or not? Like, if someone really wanted to get around it, they could always go to the Board of Appeals. So I wouldn't. This one might be on, pun intended, the chopping block here. Yeah. So,
is this a she or a he shed?
I was going to say it looks like a dollhouse,
That's what I
like
want.
for a litlittle kid or something, one of your kids or something.
It's storing a lot of equipment, but it will be, I'm sure, in about a year and a half, a she shed.
In about a year and a half, okay.
there we go.
Fill it up with
Sounds
your
good.
stuff right away. Don't leave it,
Well,
space
it's
gets
only
occupied.
180 square feet, so it can't hold too much.
No, there is a environmental corridor in the rear yard, which I identified in the application, but this does not lie within that corridor. So the applicant has a nice backyard pretty close to the Root River. I don't think we'd actually allow a lot to be platted that close to the Root River anymore, but in this case it is. But he stays outside of those setbacks anyways, so this doesn't impact that.
Any other questions, comments from the commission? If not, I would like a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the site plan review for 1433 Valley View Drive, site plan review SP-23-13.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further comments or concerns? If not, I call a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It passes. Good luck.
Robin, let's turn it over to you. I told George he should be here by 2, so I was pretty darn close, but he's not here yet, so Robin can take it away.
Alrighty, so I did a couple of aesthetic and organizational improvements suggested by our very own communications manager, Lisa Ollie, and so hopefully this is a little bit better to digest. This page is the recently approved permits. This includes both staff, approved on a staff level as well as Plan Commission level, depending on where that authority lies. I think the only kind of thing that now that I'm noticing is that it might be prudent to break out the site plan to administrative and non-administrative to get a sense on how many of those administratively we're approving. This is the recently approved permits in the last 35 days. On another suggestion, I put in the property owner name on there. for the most part, that gets you a pretty good idea of like the business or who's applying to do it. I'm trying to get this. This is also kind of me wrestling with OpenGov because I can't have like self-defined fields that auto-populate. It's a maintenance thing. Anyway, I'm trying to avoid having to manually type everything in. So like the information I can provide is sometimes limited. So added in the owner name, as well as the address and date submitted. This is the second of those recently approved permits, site plan reviews, zoning compliance permits, and you know, I wish I could break those down and say which one of those is a chicken shed and which one of those is a new build and whatnot, but don't have that option right now. Working on it. And then one zoning variance. And then these are the new permit applications going forward. Some of these, this is within the past 35 days. So some of these are the ones that you have reviewed, like the condominium plat and the comprehensive plan amendment. You've reviewed those. And some of them are going forward. These are the new permit applications that have been submitted within the last 35 days and are still active. And so some of these are site plan reviews that we will see next month, including the residential to the north of the Leo Living development, as Sam mentioned earlier. So that's coming next month.
Before you go on, a quick question. Is there some way that we can, or I don't know if it's legal or not to do, can we get a listing of this in our packets so that we can take a look at it and see what's going on ahead of time? Because I'm trying to read through this and it's like, what is this other than a report the day of, and it's never printed anywhere. So we don't really have access to it. Is that something that we can do?
Yeah, I can do that. This is, as I'm increasing this amount of information giving, it's increasing the amount of time. So it's like, yeah, okay, I can do that. So it will be about 5 days like beforehand. So by the time
when we get our packets is fine. That's just something that we can look at because we're trying to scroll through this. I'm going, what is that? And it'd be nice to know what might be going on.
It used to be a lot less, to be fair. So, but yeah, that's I will try to do that.
Thank you.
You know, and as much as I can, or with monthly or anything like that, and also give reviews on a periodic basis to kind of see where we're at for the year, all that sort of stuff. All right, municipal complaints. Here's kind of the completed and violations that we've done, as well as the new violations by category. I gotta say, lawn and weeds is having a slow start to the season. You know, they just didn't get the team together in time. You know, just haven't gelled yet. Usually they're a perennial favorite, pun intended.
Are these just for a month, Robin?
Yeah, the new violations are just in the last 35 days. So to only have one on lawn stuff is a little bit concerning. Well, we'll start to get them right about now, or where once you get past the no mow May or whatever.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is no mow May a thing?
It's not an official thing here in Mount Pleasant, but I mean, unofficially, like if someone hasn't mowed their lawn in May, that's within the realm of possibility for just like average people. Because I haven't mowed my lawn yet this year, but I live in the shadow, so but like it's mostly by the time things get egregious, that's when they start to get the letters, and then when it gets very high, that's when our DPW goes out and cuts it for them and puts it on their tax bill. So there's a lot of gray area between bad neighbor and breaking the law. So, and that's the area that's the discretionary act of this job. Okay, so and then So these are the municipal complaints that are complete. And two of these, I want to note that 2 of these are speeding complaints. Speeding on Chicory Road and speeding on Giddings Road. The one on Giddings was specifically mentioning the fact that people walk their dogs and walk along Giddings Road because it doesn't have, it's a rural cross-section, it doesn't have any sidewalks. I've been, over there, like people do, just walk on the road, and there's no street lights either. So they are very right to be concerned about speeding on that street. New municipal complaints, several on lighting too by the same person, but our lighting ordinance has been disseminated into the public as far as it existing, and so we're starting to get a lot more lighting complaints. But at the same time, the popularity of LED lighting and the strength thereof is like making really intense bright light very accessible to everybody. So everybody can basically get stadium lighting for like $50. So it's getting out of hand. So it's really great that we were able to get that lighting ordinance, to kind of tamp that down. Thanks to the efforts of Sam there. 3 of these have actually been issued citations, but those are the ones that are kind of more habitual. On 5611 and 6004 Taylor have been issued citations, as well as the Brewer Lane one has been issued, because they've all been issued violations before. So and that is it as far as the municipal complaint section. Any questions or concerns?
I have a question going back to permitting, and just maybe as a general, if you could just, does the village charge, trying to recoup, you put in a lot of time on permits and whatever the nature. Are the permit fees structured in some fashion that they're fair and commensurate with the amount of time you have to put in? Are we recouping, the village recouping a material amount of your costs and expenses and overhead through the permitting fee process?
We try to. We're not supposed to get like 100%, but we actually have, in ordinance, we are required to review our fee schedule every 2 years and adjust it based on staff time and expenses for the individual action or permit required. So like if stuff takes a little bit more time, then obviously it commensurately should go up. We had a big adjustment probably 4 years ago when we started doing this. And so that's been brought into compliance. It's also a state law too, that every fee and permit fee that is charged by a government has to be correlated to the amount of effort and time that they put into it. And can't just be like a profit-making mechanism. So the answer is yes, we do that. I think we had a really glaring one, for example, when 4 years ago, when the variance application was only $125, and that didn't even pay for the board members who sat on the board to do it. So, if there were 5 of them sitting there, they would get about $120 between them. So that was something that had to be adjusted, and that's been bumped up to $500.
But your department's comfortable where your fee structure is now?
For the most part, yeah. I think, somewhat where you have like the site plan has the site plan review has the only one that sort of scales up based on square footage, and that has gotten a few like sort of big ticket checks, but that sort of kind of covers all the other amounts of time that we're expending on something. So like, the Microsoft check, it was quite extensive, but we're going to be spending more time on their CSMs, for example, on their comp plan amendments and all that sort of stuff than is normal. So it kind of it balances out. That's how it's going to go. And we should have another one of those fee schedule reviews up sometime soon. I'm not sure when that. I think it's next year, next January.
Does Maureen or other people get involved in terms of?
Yeah.
Marine finance, everyone, it's team
Okay.
effort.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. So, all right, and I think now I see George has made it, so I'm going to pass it over to him.
George looks like he just came in from the field. His shoes are probably muddy.
We got the brush over by the front door, so I did wipe them down first. All right, thank you. I apologize for being late. So 2 updates for the commission today. First, Campus Park. I actually just came from Campus Park. I was there this morning as well. Kind of give you a little bit of an update starting back in April. When we did our end of the year report, we had talked about how important the spring was going to be for us. We needed a really good April, a good May. We did not get that. So unfortunately, a lot of that dormant seed that we had laid in the fall did not sprout. We were dropping below freezing almost every day in April at night. So we've done a ton of overseeding in those weeks in April. We started rolling the cricket pitch. We did some hydro seeding just this week out there. So we're overseeding everything to try to get this growth. We've begun watering, and we need more days like yesterday here. Nothing crazy hot. We need to be low 50s at night, 60s, 70s here over these next few weeks to be able to open up some of those landscaped areas. I'm sure everybody wants to know what date we're going to open. I still can't put a hard date on any of that at this point. The goal that we are hoping for here is to get our construction fence down that first week of June so that we can at least get the hardscapes open, basketball court, walking paths, the shelters, those types of things. We're likely going to have signage to ask people to keep off various areas and do the best that we can. Softball diamonds will remain locked so that we can water those and have the growth out there, trying to prevent as many people off of the northeast portion of the park where the cricket pitch is. It's going to be challenging, but we want to get some of these amenities that we know people can use open for the public. So hopefully by June I'll have a much better and more positive outlook for the rest of the summer, but it's the reality that we're in right now. April just was not good to us, and we really needed a good April. We did test. Sorry.
Yeah, so you said hopefully soon. Any idea by Memorial Day or July 4th or
No, I've discussed this with Sam. Likely what we would do is open the park as almost a soft opening with some sort of celebration for the park later in the summer, or even similar to the time frame that we did Mount Pleasant Day, which was September. That way we got a full summer of growth, more comfortable having larger scaled events out there. So we're still on schedule to have our playground program out there, which is the second week of June. We've moving our softball back to Stuart McBride instead of having it out there because we're just not going to be able to use those diamonds like we were hoping. So, we are pivoting in some things, but if I had a firm date, I would give it to you. It's too up in the air at this point to just say, yep, we'll be June 5th or June 18th or whatever it might be. I know we're trying to get the construction fence down sooner again, so because we know we've kicked out a fair amount of walkers already because we have the fences open for our construction trucks to get through, and we just ask them to leave and they're really excited. We know people want to get out there, so it could be, like I said, a rolling opening for various things until we can do a true opening celebration for it.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking, as I wrote to you, I go to YMCA and almost every day people are asking me questions saying, we want to go there, we want to play pickleball, we want to do this thing, and people are asking almost every day saying, give us an idea. Can you say it? Is it by Memorial Day? Is it by the end of June? Is it by end of Labor Day or whatever?
Yeah, like I said, the best I can say is pickleball is open now. So, by the first week of June, when I say the hardscapes, that would include the bathrooms and the splash pad and those other things. So there's a fair amount of amenities that will still be open. It's those grass areas that we really need to protect. We've got native seed that is going to take 3 to 5 years of establishment, and we don't want to ruin any of that hard work that we've put in here for this project. So again, that's the best timeline I can, as of what's today, the 17th. That's the best I can do at this point. I wish I could do more, but yeah, that's where we stand. This morning we did splash pad testing, so we had our rep out there. The splash pad looks great, so we've got to do some adjustments to some of the spray features and doing all the programming, some other stuff like that, so we can have that timed ready to go, again, when we get the construction fence down here. But we planted 11 additional trees. They have to come back and do some resurfacing of the basketball court, which will be next week. Again, weather dependent, and yeah, I think that covers most of the items. Then there's just a few punch list items that we're still waiting on to complete. We did a little bit of electrical work today that just got finished, so yeah. So with that, I can answer any other questions anybody might have.
I think, George, considering everything you're going through, it's really coming along really nice.
Thank you.
It looks good.
Thank you. Yeah, and it looks significantly better from the road, and I will say that. So when people are over at the Y and looking, as you start to get up closer to it, you can see there's areas of bare grass and seed that needs to come through and sprout. And so, yeah, I wanted it open yesterday. I wanted it open. Trust me, it's like a new toy for my department. So, I wish I had more clarity for everybody, but that's where we're at this point.
I just urge you to hang tough and be protective, because you're right. One event, could ruin a season's worth of work, and grass and turf takes a long time to develop, so just stand your ground. And
yeah, and we do have, Relay for Life has been at this park before, and we are still planning on having there. I've been in constant communication with them. If we have, right now, they only use hardscapes. They only use walking paths, and they have tons of volunteers, so it's a trusted group that we can work with. If we have to pivot and move them back to the parking lot, that's what we do. It's, we're realistic with where we are at right now, and it's part of my, cautiousness back in the fall and throughout all the reports last summer is we've got to be patient, and it's got to get there. It's not a 2023 park, it's 2023 and beyond, so. Any other questions on that? Okay. So then the other thing I wanted to kind of update everyone on, so in February we launched our MyRec software, and so just kind of give you a little bit of numbers. We've had over 500 accounts set up with to over 1,200 members. So whether it's husbands, wives, kids, added to our database. So that's just in the last couple of months. So with that, we've had over 550 registrations for programs. Almost 60 rentals that have been through the system. That does not include all the permits that we issued back in January for all the parks. And we've sold over 100 t-shirts just for our summer playgrounds program. So we're very pleased with the results that we've seen thus far, and also the feedback from the people who have used it when they've talked about the simplicity of being able to find it. We've taken the time, if somebody has any issues, when they call, we can help walk them through it, and those calls have been decreasing as more people have gotten comfortable with the software. So it's really going to be super beneficial. We're going to really see the importance of it come next year when we have this huge database of people that we can send information out to our programs that are already familiar with doing it. And the fact that they can register more than one kid in one checkout versus having to go back and re-register each individual kid, it's been really, really nice. And just for our own scheduling for the parks, running a report that I can give to park staff to say this is who's going to be in the park from exact what times, how many total people, instead of having to manually track all of that information from Excel. It's also saved me a fair amount of time, especially with everything else going on. So we'll be pivoting to moving campus park availability for reservations soon in the coming weeks. We may open the park, but hold off on reservations for a certain point, maybe wait until July before allowing certain things, but we may be able to allow people to reserve the pickleball courts or something before that. So all of that will be rolling out here in the next few weeks, but again, the results we're very happy with thus far.
Nancy?
Mr. Chairman, George, I'm one of those 500 people that registered, and I agree completely. I was very pleased with how easy it was to use. Being involved in numerous homeowners associations, it's a breeze for me to set up meetings, very reasonably priced. So my question is, how is that? In other words, that software is so terrific, and I know, Lisa, we're talking about at a board level in our strategic plan, working on our website and so forth. Are those, is the program you used, is it in any way, okay, Sam's shaking his head, no?
So, yeah, ours is a web-based software. If you go to any municipal organization or rec department that utilizes the software, the websites are going to look very similar. What we did is I worked with Lisa and her team on providing the graphics and the color scheme. So they provided all of the banner at the heading, the banner that's on the receipt. So we customized it to fit the same color scheme as our website. We didn't build it in, which in some cases you can, depending on the software, but this is so clean. And a lot of times when you look at recreation in general, they kind of are an offshoot of the municipal, site, and oftentimes, so that's where our department is a little bit unique compared to some of the other departments, but we looked at OpenGov when they brought that on board to see what they can do. It's really difficult to find a software company that can do it all that you need. So and what you'll often see is the ones that can, they just try to buy up a company like the one that we utilize and embed there. So that's what Civic Plus did. They purchased an old recreation site and just changed it to Civic Rec. It's just kind of how that's.
All I'm saying is it's great to use, and I hope that as we evolve our website for the village itself, that we can come up with similar solutions that are easy to use for the public and a little bit easier to find things as you're digging through it. But thank you, because I think it's terrific.
Yeah, and we have multiple areas in the Parks and Recreation section of the municipal site that gives an explanation on what our rec site is, the link to get there. So even if they do come to the municipal site looking for the information, we try to put it as quickly as possible for them to get there. I think the old thing that I was taught is you want to get somebody where they want to be within 3 clicks. So that's you search for Park and Rec, get to the main page, you see the link for our recreation site, and you're there.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, George.
All right, thank you.
I guess that's, Sam's got something to say.
I did. I lied and said I didn't have a report, but I actually do, and that's just regarding next month's Plan Commission. It is the same day as the bike race. That'll be held around the Foxconn site last year. It'll be held around Village Hall this year. Because we live cast the Plan Commission and it's in this room, we're still going to do it from here, but I wanted to get out ahead of it. So the commissioners, all of you will need to park down at the Y and then walk here to Village Hall, as will anyone needing to attend the Plan Commission. That'll be on the agendas and we'll have postings and stuff like that. But I just wanted to get out ahead of it so you all know next month, park at the Y and walk up the block. So
What
you
if
can
it's
come to the
raining?
Plan Commission.
Increasing your per diem for that?
It's just exercise. It's good for your heart,
My office is within walking distance. I'm going to try that.
There's a sidewalk the entire way there.
And can we get a bike box so when I ride my bike, I can put my bike in a bike
That's
box?
the village board question. I'm in full support. So.
And the meeting is on June 21st, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
21st, 22nd, whatever the Wednesday is.
Wednesday.
Wednesday's the 21st?
Yeah.
Yeah, then that is the day. So there will be signs for you all, and we'll set aside some parking for you all next month to be able to walk up here. But if anyone was coming just to watch, I would say it's probably going to be easier for them to just watch online. If applicants have business in front of the Plan Commission, we're also going to let them know, and it'll be on the agenda postings and everything else. So shouldn't be an issue. It's a 5-minute walk, but just so you know. When you come in, you're like, how do I get there? You'll have to go to the Y and then walk up.
You know, captive audience for the bike race too, you know.
Exactly. Make sure to stop by before or after. There'll be a lot going on around Village Hall that day. So, good excuse to come early and stick around and then go to the Plan Commission meeting.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Thank you. Okay, I'm looking for one last motion.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.